Redemption. I'm Snow.
Is that what we're called?
And you're MJ.
I'm MJ.
You leave me hanging.
Yeah. Well,
Is that what we're called? Reality Redemption?
Reality Redemption.
Don't you put that when you put our podcast up?
You know what?
Is that what you're filing us under?
You know what we're going to be called, though? The Daily Show. Trevor Noah's retiring.
This is our audition tape?
Yeah. So,
Uh-oh.
You know what the problem is? Because we're not going to be funny a whole lot this week. We'll try to be a little bit, but we got some shit to talk about.
We try all the time, and I don't know how well we do.
Do you know how? You know how I know that we're getting old, though? Me more so than you.
Because I need Botox?
Yeah. No, because each week we have to lead with who died this week.
Oh.
AngelaLansbury. Murder, She Wrote.
Correct, but wasn't she like 96?
Something like that.
I mean, that's a pretty
That's
good...
still...
That's a
it's
pretty
a good
run. Yeah.
She was another one that you kind of go...
Yes, it's still sad, because I loved Murder, She Wrote, but, you know...
But it was kind of like, yeah, is she...
But she had a good, long life.
Was she, you know, kind of like, well, was she still alive? You know?
I know. Well, that's what I thought, too, when I heard that she died. I'm like, I could have sworn she died like a few years ago. But, I mean, obviously she didn't, or they wouldn't be saying she died.
Okay, before we get into what we'll talk about this week, first off, give a shout out to Kat from the Kingman Area Reproductive Freedom Alliance, who week...
we love. We love Kat.
Yes. So, if you're in Kingman Locomotive Park this Sunday, 1 to 5 p.m., they're having another reproductive rights rally down there.
Are we going?
Are we? I mean, that's during football.
I know, but you tape the games. We could go.
Yeah. Yeah, we could go make appearance. We should.
Yeah.
Show our support.
Yeah.
I want to say something, though, and this is kind of directed at the local press around here. And there was an article that came out in the Standard, which... good for this writer who went down and covered it and wrote an article. But if you're going to post pictures in the Standard or submit your article, submit pictures from the actual rally.
Yeah.
Don't go back to July and do it.
Because when you don't, news like that is very misleading. I remember, because I am a Teamster, and sometimes people like to demonize unions, Fox News loves to show old footage of strikes that got a little out of hand and claim that they're the current strike. When it's like, no.
Yeah.
No, this one happened several years ago and you're still using footage from that. Not cool.
Right, and Kat also mentioned on our podcast that she wanted to keep it a positive note, you know, and while I don't necessarily think the picture was horrible, but it wasn't from that rally, but it could be directed as a negative picture because of the age of the person holding the sign and what was on the sign. And it really wasn't the positive message that Kat tries to send. And to the same reporter, I don't know if he listens every week, you also did the same thing to us when you mentioned our real names in an article for the paper. When we said...
We have stage names.
Yeah, when we said, hey, that article's fine, thank you, just take out our names. Mm-hmm. Oh, I've always submitted it. Then why the fuck did you ask me if it was okay to use?
Yeah, then ask first and then submit, maybe.
Yeah.
Isn't that part of the editing process?
Yeah, and if you don't want to ask, I guess you have the right not to ask, you know. But this is just shit that gives the press a bad name. You know, especially around here, especially around in this area. We have to be uber careful, and we'll get into that story in just a few minutes. Well, no, we can start with this. Parkland. The verdict came out today that the kid's going to get life. Which
there's a lot of people who were upset. My question is, I'm a person that does not believe in the death penalty, but I would have said that when there was jury selection. Why did they not ask the jury members, are you okay with the death penalty? Or, I mean, if I knew that they tell you a little bit about the case that you're going to be sitting on. I mean, they tell you, this is a murder case or whatever before when they take you in and interview you. So if I was on one where it was a murder case, I would specifically tell the lawyer, I would be like, I probably need to be excused because I oppose the death penalty, so I would not go for that.
I think in my older...
To get excused.
I think in my older age, I was kind of for the death penalty. When the Boston bombing took place, I was kind of going for, he should get the death penalty. In this case, when it first happened, I know my reaction was, how can they even arrested this kid? It's horrible to say, why didn't the police just end the situation there and just take that kid out?
Right.
I mean, I'm not opposed to shit like that, but death penalty is a weird one for me, where I guess I don't really believe it anymore because of the cases where people have died that were found innocent later on.
This kid is not innocent at all.
I know. I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. Yeah. I'm not. But what I'm saying is either you're for it or you're against it.
Right.
So
no, and I understand what you're saying too. There's been people who have been put to death who were innocent, and that's terrible. That's not really my reason for opposing the death penalty. Mine, I guess, basically boils down to two wrongs don't make a right. I think that, and I think it's worse. I don't think that people have this idea that prisoners live this good life and they get all this stuff. Right. I don't think that happens.
I know.
I really don't believe that.
On that note, where I agree with the decision is this is a young kid. And he's going to spend many, many years
That's what I'm saying.
sitting there thinking about what he did.
I hope he lives for a long time, locked up in a cage like a rat, when he's going to get shit from other inmates for what he did. I mean, they're going to know since it was such a high-profile case. And look at what happened to Jeffrey Dahmer. This kid could get murdered in prison.
Yep.
It could happen.
Prison justice.
I mean, if that happens, well, it's not like I would be for it, but I just think it's more of a punishment to make people sit in a box and think about why they're in said box for the rest of their life. I think I think you're letting them off easy if you kill them off too, honestly.
Right.
That's my opinion.
And I felt bad because I was watching that before work while they were reading the verdict and seeing the family members there. And this is going to get into the next subject of having to relive that moment and look at this kid. And the news station I was watching was doing a good job during their commentary of not mentioning this kid's name, because I'm a firm believer is you don't mention his name. Obviously, when they were reading the count, they were having to say the name. But at least the commentators were not saying the kid's name. I'm more in the belief of where you talk about the victims and you do say the victims' names so people remember that. And I guess where this ties back into the standard story and how our names got used, we became kind of prominent in town because we wrote an article after Parkland, and it wasn't an anti-gun article, but it was a pro-victim article.
Right. Getting back to the sentencing too, I watched something a long time ago. I had to do community service, and we got It was not for a DUI, but I had got caught with alcohol, unopened alcohol in my car, and I was a minor, so you had to like watch all this stuff about DUIs and whatnot, and you know, as part of your community service. And there was this thing on there where this guy, he got into an accident while drinking, and part of his sentencing, and they should kind of impose this with part of the sentencing where to the victims. This guy had to write out a check for $1 every single week to the family that the family of the victim. He didn't get a life sentence, but he got like several years. And if he missed 1 week, like I think he got more time added on to it. Why don't they do something like that with the shooter and all people that go to prison? Like, make that part of their sentencing where they have to, you're gonna have to get a job in prison, and it pays like 42 cents an hour or something like that. Make him have to write out a check to the family, to all the family victims of all the people that he killed every once a week, or if not, he goes in the hole and goes into solitary. I don't know. I mean, make it like that, so that he's not, you're not letting him off, and you're making him do something that when he has to write that out, he is remembering exactly why he is in there.
Yeah. So back to Parkland and why we don't want our names used. So after that article, we were getting threats. You know, we had to shut down the Facebook comment page. And at first I was kind of like, hey, we're making a difference. You know, it's kind of like one of those things, like I think Dale Earnhardt used to say, if the crowd is booing him or cheering him, hey, as long as I'm getting a reaction. We were getting a reaction. So people were reading what our words and taking in what we're saying. And we were getting a lot of hate. We got a lot of positive things. We got someone to register to vote out of that, which was the best part about that. But what I'm saying is the consequences of now we get threats because of that, just because we were speaking up for these kids rather than me, my gun, me, my, me. No, how about you stop and you think about these victims? And that'll lead to the next part where it was yesterday in Connecticut. The Sandy Hook families has civil suit against Alex Jones. Mm-hmm. And the courts awarded the victims' families almost $1 billion. It was something like $935 million.
Yeah, very close to $1 billion.
Yeah. And personally, Alex Jones is a fucking piece of shit.
Big time piece of shit.
He went on and he had said...
You notice how that piece of shit has never called any of the other ones crisis actors? Of the other shootings? Because, or if he has, he's going to face more lawsuits, because now that this one's said and done, I don't think he has he? He's I don't think pretty much shut his fucking fat mouth.
No.
Now?
No, he didn't.
That hateful mouth.
Let me see if
I shove a bunch of Big Macs in it. Let me see if
I can pull this up.
Slather it with ketchup and shove it in his mouth.
20 million, 50 million, 80 million, 100 million, blah, blah. You get $1 million, you get 100 million, you get 50 million. Do these people actually think they're getting any money?
That was his reaction yesterday as the verdict was being read, and he was on InfoWars, of course. Mm-hmm. Do people actually think you're getting any money?
He's doing the same. He's just like O.J. Simpson. He's just like O.J. Simpson. He got a judgment against him, to which he's probably never going to pay. Just like O.J.
Well, I mean, talk to some people, and I should have gotten PETA on the podcast today, but I got busy and stuff like that. But he thinks that there's no way that he gets out of that. And I was reading something with other legal experts saying that he's not going to get away with it. He's going to be broke the rest of his life. Now,
we can only hope.
He filed bankruptcy, though, saying that he owes $65 million to the supplement, the shit he sells on his fucking InfoWars.
He already filed bankruptcy before?
He's in the middle of filed bankruptcy. But the thing is, he filed bankruptcy, okay? Who owns the supplement company? Who do you think owns the supplement company that he owes 65? Him and his parents.
Okay. So
he filed bankruptcy against himself, basically.
Okay, but and here's the thing too, though. I thought that once you file bankruptcy, if you get slapped with another one, then that does not count. So you can only get out of like one thing.
Well, hopefully that's the case.
I was thinking this because when I was going through, trying to sue that piece of shit that destroyed my studio.
Yeah.
That I had to redo. So I was trying to figure it out. I'm like, well, she can file bankruptcy, I guess, to get out of one of them. But if I slap another judgment on her for the destruction of property, like I can go after her for the non-payment of rent. But they're like, well, she might be able to get out of that if she files bankruptcy. But I don't know. I really wish we would have had Peter on to.
Yeah, we'll try to.
Peter. Excuse me, I said your name wrong.
We'll try to get an update next week on it and get more into it, the legal aspects of it.
Right. We need our legal expert.
But people are saying that he might not be able to get out of this. Now, he's going to appeal, and drag this out. And,
of course.
But let's not forget what this fucking piece of fucking shit did. Okay? His fucking supplement fucking... By the way, have you ever seen anybody that out of shape that fucking sells supplements?
I know.
To begin with. But number two, Alex Jones, okay? He goes on and says Sandy Hook wasn't real. It was all crisis actors and all this other fucking bullshit. Blah, 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 fucking nay. But then his callers latch onto it. And they start calling these parents who have lost their 6-year-olds massacred. And he goes on there and he has people calling them to the point where some people had to move. They had to move out of Sandy Hook, went elsewhere. The harassment continued. People then started sending these families pictures of dead kids saying, this is what a real dead kid looks like. I think if I was like Obama, and since you can declassify stuff and shit like that, if I was Obama and I heard about that, the pictures that Obama had to see after Sandy Hook, I would send those to these fucking people. You don't think this is fucking real? Look at these pictures. Why don't you think any of us have ever seen these pictures? Because we couldn't fucking handle it if we saw that shit. Piles of 6-year-olds dead.
I know. I mean, I hate to say it because it's terrible, but it's like they need to have the courage that Emmett Till's mother had and show what happened. He is such a piece of shit. These poor parents, they've got to be like living a nightmare that they cannot wake up from. To have your child taken from you and in that manner, it's got to be like a fucking nightmare every day that you can never wake up from. That's what I would imagine. I mean, I don't have children, but I'm like, that's what I imagine their lives are like.
Yeah, and not to mention, even if Alex Jones pays up, that money just is not worth what they went through. That's even before they got these harassing phone calls. Even before it. Can you imagine you walk your 6-year-old to the bus stop, kiss him, hug him, see ya, the kid's going to get home and play Mario Kart with you that night or whatever, and your kid never comes home.
That's what I'm saying, like the nightmare. Like, wouldn't that day play in your mind? You're a parent. Like, parents, no parent should ever have to bury their children. You've got to, like, I know when I fuck up on stuff, you know how you replay shit in your mind?
Yeah.
And you're like, and these parents are probably like doing a lot of self-blame. They're probably like, I should have never taken him to the bus stop that day.
Yeah.
Was something that
or what
they normally did.
Or what if you're that typical kid and you just don't want to go to school that day, but you're the parent and you force them to go to school? Can you imagine the guilt?
Like, you're going to school, you're not staying home. And then if your child was like that and you're like, I should have listened to him that day, you know?
And
you'd never forgive yourself.
And let's not forget what all but one Republican did a couple weeks ago. And when they said that we should have mental health care in schools and access to mental health care, all the Republicans voted against it. This kid clearly had mental health issues.
And when they have used that for what, like at least the past 5 mass shootings that we've had, that has been the Republicans' excuse. This is a mental health issue. This is a mental health issue. Then why the fuck did you vote against mental health funding? Why? Why would you do that? I do not fucking understand your logic.
And this goes to, unfortunately, he killed his mom first before he went to the school.
Right.
But the mom must have known that he had issues.
Isn't she the one that bought him the gun, too?
No, it was her guns that he used.
Oh. What is she doing with an AR-15?
She had the gun. She left it unlocked. He went in there, killed her, and then went to the school. Again, though, if your kid has mental health issues and you're a responsible gun owner, that's what we always hear, responsible fucking gun owners, you would lock that fucking gun up.
Why would you not have them locked up? Especially if you know that your kid has issues, too. I mean, the kid already had issues before. And
I can't stress this enough.
The shooting.
We have to say this every time. We are not anti-gun on this show.
Here, disclaimer, we are not anti-gun. Both of us have shot guns before.
I've owned guns.
Right? I owned one gun one time. Yeah. We are fine with... We have a lot of friends who own guns.
Yeah.
We have family members who own guns.
Correct.
We are fine with guns. Most people are responsible gun owners.
Right, but where the problem is where the gun becomes more important than the victims of Sandy Hook, Parkland, Uvalde, and we choose the gun is more important than those kids who had a future ahead of them.
How can those people say that they're patriotic Americans if they don't care about other Americans?
Well, they're pro-life.
I mean, how can they say they're pro-life? How can they claim all these things if they're like, no, my guns are more important than other Americans? They just are. I mean, I don't want to hear your bullshit anymore, and I don't want to hear your lies, and I don't want to hear your excuses. So I'm just going to tune you out, and I'm just going to say what I want to say.
And talk
because
about
I think
food.
you're fucking liars. Right. Yes, I will. I think some of you are very nice people still, but I think you're liars. I think you're confused. I think you're hypocrites. But I think that you probably like certain foods that I probably like, so that's what we will talk about. I'm not talking with you about serious shit, because guess what? I don't like the way that you see certain things. I've tried talking to you, and you just get all pissed off anyways, and I'm afraid you might want to shoot me.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna.
Especially we talk about January 6th. Did you listen to that hearing today?
I did. I had to even switch it over to NPR because they didn't have any commercial breaks. And I wanted to be able to hear all of it. So I switched over there and restarted it.
I had it on in the background, and obviously I can't work, so I didn't pay attention. I got the highlights of it. Now, what you texted me, he admitted that he knew he lost?
He said behind
they had him
closed
on,
doors too. Can you believe I lost to that fucking guy? That was one of his comments?
Did they have audio of that?
Yes, of him saying that he knew that he lost. And Roger Stone saying it doesn't matter if he lost. We're pushing. I forget what he said. He said something like the fuck was in there, of course, because of Roger Stone. But not that offends me. No. I mean, I shouldn't even say it like that. But
we don't fucking care.
Yeah, right. We talk like that. But, yeah, and the fact that he basically premeditated what happened on 1/6. He premeditated it all.
Yeah, and
he wanted the violence. And the other thing that's really disgusting too is the Secret Service was basically in on it too. He convinced those dickheads. Well, because the one guy worked for him. God, what's his name? Tony Ornato? Whatever, worked for Trump and then went back with Secret Service, worked for Trump and then went back and did Secret Service stuff
right,
or
because
something.
they deleted a bunch of their text messages, right? That day.
Right, yes.
And the other thing that, and we're just talking about hypocrisy, okay? And I remember when Trump ran and they were talking about Hillary I don't remember if it was Hillary, but he was talking about somebody that pleads the fifth. And Trump said, if you plead the fifth, you're guilty. Did you hear?
All the fifths?
All the fifth.
All the
fifth,
different people?
Fifth.
I take the fifth.
Yeah.
I take the fifth. Yeah.
If you're not guilty, then...
My thing is like when they were doing that, when they were saying, I plead the fifth or whatever, I'm like, my first thought was, why don't you just say no? Because, I mean, you've already committed to lying your fucking ass off for Trump. What are you so afraid of? I mean, how does being under oath even affect a piece of shit like you? Why don't you just lie under oath?
Yeah.
You know? I mean, that's the thing. And what's been great too is I've heard a couple interviews lately with Michael Cohen lately, and him talking about how Trump threw him under the bus. I'm like, all these people too that are doing all this shit for Trump. I'm like, he's gonna throw you under the bus. He did it to his own fucking attorney. Right. He did. Michael Cohen was saying, he goes, the moment I knew that he threw me under the bus was when he had gotten, I forget what it was that he was getting investigated for, but he said, oh, my lawyer, and he couldn't even say my name. He was like, how do you not know your own lawyer's name? He refused to even say my name. He said, oh yeah, my lawyer, or that guy. Yeah, and he's like, he's gonna throw me under the bus. That's what he said.
So I guess that's number one in the pleading the fifth. You're being a hypocrite. Number two, all these people say they support law and order, support the police, back the blue, right? Mm-hmm. Back the blue. They'll have that flag, Blue Lives Matter and all this shit.
They've distorted the American flag. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I only love this sector of America. I don't love the rest of it.
How do you support those police officers getting beaten nearly to death on the Capitol steps?
And also, here's another point I want to bring up. Since Trump premeditated this whole thing, why is he not responsible for Ashley Babbitt, their martyr? Why is he not responsible for her fucking dying that day? Right. He's the one that did all this.
Right, and you know what? If she would have complied, that's another thing they say. Well, he should have followed the officer's orders.
Why didn't you do what the police told you to do?
They told her. I saw the footage. Mm-hmm. They told her, stop, don't come in here. Stop, we are going to shoot you. And she continued to come through the window.
And she knew better. She was military trained. She knew she should have known better. But still, I mean, part of me still feels bad for the people who chose to do that because they were called on by that fucking buffoon. And
Right.
They clearly don't
Right.
have minds of their own to say, this probably isn't a good idea. They were all on board with it because of all the fears
Right.
that
And
Donald Trump preaches to them. It was like a calling to them.
and they talked about that too. And, it was, 4 hours? 4 hours that they were trying to convince him to make a statement to tell people to back down.
Mm-hmm.
And
he
didn't.
sat around eating his Big Mac slathered with ketchup, rewinding it. Look at what they're doing for me.
Sean Hannity and Laura Ingraham were on the phone with him, telling him, tell your supporters to back down.
I don't. Did you hear the footage too of Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer too, trying to call the mayor of DC?
I was on lunch when they were showing that footage, and that's on actually CNN's showing it tonight, where they have 40 minutes of the footage.
People keep saying that you should actually watch it, not just listen to it. So when I go home after our cast, I'm going to go watch it.
I've got it recorded
to see it. Yeah.
But yeah. Chuck Schumer was pissed.
Chuck Schumer was like, he needs to tell him to get out of here. He needs to call him off and tell him to go home. He kept saying that, and then Nancy Pelosi's talking about all the doo-doo. She's like, there's poo-poo all over, figuratively and literally.
I did see that part.
Right? I just heard it because I was listening, over my headset, but I was like, oh my God. So the good news, though, in it was they all voted to, it was unanimous that they voted to subpoena him. Not that he'll show up.
Yes, and this is what's...
Here's the thing, though. If they would promise to televise it and whatnot, there might be a chance that he would show up because his ego is that bad. The whole time I'm listening to this thing, I'm like, this whole thing happened because of Orange Baby Man's fragile ego.
Yeah, he
couldn't lose.
And I can't believe I'm going to defend him here just a little bit. I think he has a serious mental illness from his upbringing and maybe his abusive dad, because his dad told him that you cannot be a loser. And he's fixated on not being a loser and accepting a loss.
And his dad was like, they sent him away to boarding school because they couldn't deal with him because he was an asshole child, which it's like, well, you guys created him. You should have handled your problem. You should have, sending him away to school was not the answer, obviously. You just sent him away. But no, if you ever listen to or read any of Mary Trump's stuff, the daughter of Fred Trump,
right? Yep.
The one that the parents really wanted, but he suffered from alcoholism. I mean, it was sad. And he was really the better looking one. It's like, I don't think Donald Trump is good looking at all, but it's like, I bet you Donald Trump was just so envious of Fred Trump because the parents loved Fred and blah, blah, blah. But, if you listen to her, she's a psychologist or psychiatrist or whatnot. She talks about Trump's mental illness. She talks about all of Donald's mental illness.
Yeah.
So,
but I guess this goes back to, and this we lumped this in with Alex Jones and Roger Stone and Mark Meadows. Since when is it okay to just, Alex Jones, he said in that clip, well, yeah, you think you're getting any money out of me? Why is it okay for the law and order people to accept this, to accept pleading the fifth, to accept Alex Jones saying, I'm not going to pay that?
Alex Jones?
Donald Trump. I
know, the party of law and order.
Donald Trump is not going to answer this subpoena. I can put money on it. I'll probably put...
Well, he has the right to do that. He has the right to not comply with that. Or he has the right to go in front of them and plead the fifth the whole time, too. Or he has the right to go and try to talk his way out of it, too.
But if Congress subpoenas you, you don't have to answer to that?
He doesn't have to.
That seems fucked up.
I know. I mean, he could just he could. Maybe what he's hoping for is that Congress will change hands so it'll all get dropped. I don't know. That's why these elections are so important. Yeah. Vote, 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 people.
Yep, vote. Tulsi Gabbard left the Democratic Party.
Oh, dear God.
Because she claimed the Democrats were elites.
Elites. If you look up the definition of elites, it's like, it says, like, people of, like, a higher class, a lot of money, a lot of intelligence or whatnot. I'm like, isn't that like Donald Trump minus the intelligence part? I mean, he had the ability with all of what he was born with, but I'm like, the fact that these folks are like, oh, liberals are elitists and whatnot. Weren't we going to talk about our own, like, because we've been called elitists before? Folks, I went to community college for a little bit.
Yep.
I do not have a degree, so I don't know where you're getting that I'm some elitist. I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth, so I'm not elitist in that way. It's like, I like to go by common sense, and common sense tells me that the other side is all for business and corporations and whatnot, which I don't own a corporation. I would like corporations to pay their taxes, so I go with common sense shit. I'm going with the stuff. Look at all the things that have been passed lately, all the great things that have been passed lately that actually help people. Don't help billionaires get out of paying taxes, because I'm not for that, because guess what? Like I said, common sense. I'm not a billionaire. I'm never gonna be a billionaire.
Right. Wouldn't Donald Trump be an elitist, technically?
That's what
Roger
I'm saying.
Murdoch would be an elitist.
That's what I said. Like, minus the intelligence part on Donald Trump's part. I'm not saying that Murdoch isn't smart. I do not view Donald Trump as a smart person. I don't.
Jeff Bezos, elitist?
Yeah, he flies himself into space on day trips.
Yeah.
He gets out of paying his taxes.
Elon Musk, elitist?
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely. Thank God he could not ever run for president. Thank God.
The Koch brothers, when they were the Koch
Definitely.
brothers?
The Koch brothers they should be the poster boys. Well, Koch brother, because one of them died.
Yeah.
But the Koch brother should be the poster child for what an elitist is. They literally were born, their father was already like a millionaire, billionaire before they were even paying to keep Scott Walker's fucking job for him.
Right.
Fuck you, Scott Walker.
What's his face? The Halliburton guy? Elitist?
Oh, Dick Cheney.
Dick Cheney? Come on, he was elitist.
Definitely. I don't think he started out as an elitist, but if you watch that movie, I almost called the movie
Vice?
Dick. Like, if you watch that movie Dick, no, he has Vice. Vice, it showed him like, he was kind of like a pathetic loser in the beginning. It was more like the pushing of his wife that got him to straighten shit up.
And can you believe they think Liz Cheney is like a liberal now?
I know. It's like, oh, because she's doing the right thing?
Yeah.
So
Saving democracy.
is that them admitting that liberals more do the right thing?
Right. And think about it this way. These people who support Donald Trump, if you support him, whatever. You support him. Okay. You like his policies. Well, okay, whatever.
Liz Cheney would definitely be an elitist by definition.
You like his tweets. But they don't want free and fair elections. They want to appoint Trump the president again. They want to overturn an election, appoint Trump again, okay? And they wouldn't care, they really wouldn't care if you got rid of the term limits for president and let Trump be president for however long. Isn't that elitist?
That is non-American. That is not what our country is. Like, that's why I just laugh anymore when I see them dressed up in their goddamn flag and everything and doing all this stuff. I'm like, You guys just like symbols, but you don't really love America. You don't love what America stands for.
Yeah.
These people, what Donald Trump did, and the fact that he premeditated all of this and whatnot, and remember how when I said when 1/6 first started, I go, on 1/6, America, not all of us, but basically America flew their own planes into their tower. These people who still support Donald Trump are the same people who still supported bin Laden after what happened on 9/11. They're on the same level.
Right.
How are they not? They're all fucking terrorists.
We've said that before. Is what's the difference between a radical Christian
and a radical Muslim?
There's no difference.
Like, look, okay, yeah. Look at what they're doing now. Like,
you're driving around.
Muslims, like the radical Muslims are like the Sharia law. Like making the women, dress a certain way, being fully covered up or whatnot. What are the Christians now doing? What are the Christian Sharias doing? Fucking telling women what they're supposed to do with their bodies. It's like, how do you guys not see that you're the same thing that you complain about other people? The only reason that you complain about these other people is they have darker skin complexions. That's
right.
it.
And they drive around in pickup trucks with flags in the back with machine guns.
Right.
Same thing.
Same thing.
Yeah.
They're the same.
Hey, and while we're on that, Sharia law and shit, we haven't talked about this before, and we should be better prepared to talk about how about the girls in Iran who are standing up to the government, taking off their burqas, cutting their hair. That is, if there was a definition of patriot, that is what a patriot would be.
It's the same as the women in our country who are out there marching and saying our bodies are our choice. It's the same thing. It's a sister solidarity. We're in solidarity with them too,
Yeah, one more thing before we get to the important midterms coming up. The problem with Jon Stewart came back on Apple TV for the second season. And the latest episode, The War on Gender, or The Problem with Gender. Mm-hmm. I absolutely loved that episode. Mm-hmm. It was all based on facts, experts, parents who have to make these decisions. The best part was when he interviewed the Attorney General of Arkansas, Leslie Rutledge, and he absolutely humiliated her. I don't think I've ever seen someone take down someone so viciously in an interview before as that one.
I thought he did it like...
No, he did it. He did it in a nice way.
Right.
He wasn't mean at all.
He was very cordial about it, but she should have... It's almost like you wanted to go, did you not do your research on Jon Stewart? Do you know who Jon Stewart is before you agreed to go into this interview?
Why?
I thought she was going to get up and leave because I thought she was going to be so, I mean, I will give her those kudos that she stayed and still tried to peddle her fucking nonsense. But I was just like, did you not realize what you were getting into? Like,
yeah, okay. Now she has to have people. Like, Jon Stewart's people must contact her people. I don't think Jon Stewart calls her directly and says, hey, can I come interview? His people call her people.
Right.
She agrees to sit down. Now, her people have to be incredibly stupid not to do a little bit of research on who Jon Stewart is, if you didn't already know who he is. And if so, you would make sure she was prepared for that interview. Right, with some facts of her own. Well, at least some talking points.
What I learned from the episode was the only place I need to go in Arkansas is the only place I've ever been in Arkansas, which is Eureka Springs, which is totally awesome there. It's just like Jerome or Bisbee, but in Arkansas. That's the only place to go in Arkansas to visit, folks. They've got cool people there and fabulous water. Other than that, I don't know about the rest of that state.
And I'll have to admit that I didn't do enough of my research until watching that episode about what gender-affirming healthcare is they are not mutilating kids.
Right. I know. I was glad that I saw that episode too. I was listening to a radio program earlier and they had people on there who were talking about the episode too. And I was like, okay. They honestly though, like the left should do a better job of getting more of that information out, because all you hear on like media outlets is about they'll sit there and say, oh, they're trying to put kids in, they're doing surgeries on kids. None of this is true.
Yeah.
None of this is true. The only thing that they do is they will give a child the puberty blockers, which all it does is block them from going into puberty if they feel as though they are, like the one parent said, my daughter said that when she was born, when she was like 4, that she felt like she was a girl in a boy's body, that she was in the wrong body. So it's like, they need to come out more. The media needs to do a better job of getting more of this messaging out and saying, look, this is what's going on. And the fact that he had the geneticist on there too that was talking about like all the different chromosomes and how you can have more than just, you know, the XX or the XY. Like, I had no idea that you could have XXY, or I had no idea.
Right. And, you know, even Ben Shapiro, he kind of did a takedown of Ben.
My wife is a doctor.
But even Ben Shapiro was like, in most cases, in 98% of cases, yeah, in most cases.
That would have been so great if Jon Stewart would have had Ben Shapiro come on the show.
I
too,
would
have
liked
gone
it.
round and round with him.
Yeah.
Like, when is that debate going to happen?
Dr. Quinn Messon, husband.
I know, that was hilarious. I was dying.
And Ben Shapiro's not a dumb guy at all. I've seen him on Bill Maher before, and I'll actually listen to him debate Bill Maher, and I'll be like, okay, he's making some good points there. But Jon Stewart caught him and said, yeah, you said in most cases, not all. Mm-hmm. You know, and so, I don't know. I want to thank Jon Stewart for doing that episode, because it enlightened me about some things too, and got a new perspective about some things. And, you know, I'll just leave it at that. So we're patiently awaiting our ballots to come by mail.
Yes.
Hopefully any day now.
Right?
Can't wait to rock the vote. And a survey came out that 50% of people are more inclined to vote because of the Supreme Court decision on Roe versus Wade. Up from 43%
Good.
before. And hopefully in a lot of these places where these races are going to be tight, like here in Arizona, Georgia, I think Ohio is going to be close.
Go Tim Ryan.
Tim Ryan. Oh, that was a great take. That was a great takedown the other night.
No, I like all of his talks on union.
Yeah. Anyway, there's going to be a lot of important races, and vote with your mind and your heart, not just red or blue, left or right.
Yeah.
You know, because there's a lot of important things. Elections are up. See that fucking asshole we have running for Secretary of State took part on January 6th, and he's going to be the one that might decide the elections.
He's creepy, too. I saw him on an ad, and I'm just like, hasn't America learned that, no, going like the MTG route and the Boebert route is not cool? Like, we don't need these idiots in our government. No.
Yeah. And what else we got on here? Locally in Kingman, if you live in Kingman, and everybody likes to bitch about the roads around here. Mm-hmm. because they repealed the sales tax a few years ago on it, the money that was supposed to be allotted to fixing roads. That is going to be up on the ballot again this year. So if you live in this area and you like good roads, what's a minimum sales tax going to do to support better roads?
Oh shit. I like just knowing this town, I'm crossing my fingers that it's going to pass, but I'm like, they're going to see the word tax and they're going to just be like, they got the whole fucking Boston Tea Party wrong. It's like, how fucking dumb are you guys? Like, the Boston Tea Party was about they didn't want to pay a tax to England anymore. It doesn't they don't want to pay it to another country. It doesn't mean that we don't need money to run our own fucking shit.
Yep. We
all use the roads. Get on board with this. Stop being such a cheap fucking asshole.
And to that point, though, if you vote no, if you vote against it, then don't go on Facebook and bitch about the condition of the roads because you voted to not have funding for roads.
Go fucking aim your car in the potholes. If you're gonna vote no on it, I mean, fuck off.
Speaking of that, another reason why we need, pro-choice is there's too many dumb drivers on the roads. Why do we want more? We don't. You saw me when I came out of the grocery store the other day. Just totally frustrated by people who can't even drive through a parking lot.
Oh my God, I know.
Bad drivers. I guess we have Proposition 309. That one. Here in Arizona, they want to make it harder for you to vote by mail. And if you don't properly sign and date your mail-in ballot, they could invalidate it, which is just the first step of just eliminating mail-in voting for real. That's what it is. They don't want mail-in voting because God forbid, you want to stand in line, people that may not be able to take off the time from work.
People that go on vacation that week.
Yeah, because I was in Indiana during the last election,
The primaries.
I had a mail-in ballot, so I still got to vote.
Right.
It's just ridiculous, and they're all for mail-in. They're all for mail-in ballots because didn't Ivanka have a mail-in ballot from somewhere else? And they're
almost the entire Trump family voted by mail.
Yeah.
So they're liars. They're liars.
They just want to make it harder for certain people to vote.
It's the whole thing. What's good for me is not good for thee.
Yeah. So vote. Early. There's polling centers that are open now for early voting. You can go to those. I wish I had the list of locations. Maybe I should fucking write that down. Is there anything else on this one? Vote for Mark Kelly.
Yeah. Vote for Mark Kelly. Vote for Katie Hobbs.
And who was the one that you sent me earlier?
Sandra Kennedy. And
Sandra Kennedy from the Arizona Corporation Commission.
And
Lauren Kuby.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's just in Arizona. Do your research. I know that a lot of states send out these book pamphlets about what's on the ballot. Do your research. Vote with your head and your heart on it. Do the right thing. Don't be like, oh, it's Hillary. I don't want to vote for. I don't like her. Well, guess what? If you support women's rights, you should have voted for Hillary in the last one. That's why. That's the main reason. I would say that
wouldn't be going through this now.
I would say that was the number one reason I voted for Hillary, because I didn't want the woman's right to choose to be overturned. Just like if you love your guns, I guess you vote for the pro-gun guy.
The reason I voted for Hillary was because she was not the scumbag that is Donald Trump. I mean, it's plain and simple. She was not Donald Trump.
I wonder what
who is a scumbag, who does not care about any of you, any of his supporters. He does not give a fuck about you. He doesn't even care about his own lawyer. He'll throw him under the bus. You don't think he's not gonna... He's the reason that all those fucking insurrectionists are in prison now, too. He planned the whole fucking thing. And you guys bought into it. Hook, line, and sinker. You guys are suckers. You're suckers. He owned you. You know how you guys want to own the libs? Trump owned you. He played you.
I wonder if COVID... Now, we can't say for sure or not whether COVID would have been this bad if Hillary had been president.
Well, there wouldn't have been all the funding cut from the pandemic. From the pandemic, yeah, there wouldn't have been all the cuts to that stuff. So
we might have gotten on top of it earlier.
Right, we might, maybe.
Who knows? We're totally speculating. Can't go back and change history. Right. But
I mean, and that's the one thing we actually have to give him credit for, was the vaccine was rolled out under his presidency.
Right.
So I thank you for that, but that's about it.
He did say take the vaccine. Now his supporters didn't really go with it.
He took the vaccine. Yeah. He has the vaccine. He's had COVID, folks, but he has the vaccine. And I'm sure he has all the boosters, too.
Yeah. We don't want to wish anything really... Well, do we
there's
really...
that.
Do we want to wish bad on him, if we were being honest?
No, I don't. I want him to go to... I want him to go to prison.
It would...
That's my wish for him.
That'd be great if...
He can go sit in a box and think about what he's done, just like Parkland shooter.
I know. He would look fabulous because the jumpsuit and the hair would match.
I know, all orange.
Yeah. He looked like a jack-o'-lantern. Mm-hmm. Halloween is coming up.
Right.
Okay. All right, on that, maybe we'll be better prepared. We'll do a short one maybe on Sunday if we're watching football or whatever. And we'll talk a little bit more about the election coming up because it's important. Get out and vote. Get out and vote. Alex Jones is a piece of shit. Piece of shit. And, I just want to mention, dude, I went to go see, because we lost Tom Petty a couple years ago. I know you love Tom Petty.
Mm-hmm.
But he came out. Eddie Vedder, I saw him a solo show in Las Vegas last Friday. And he came out and the first song he did was a cover of a Tom Petty song.
Which one?
Room at the Top.
Oh.
And which is fabulous, just fabulous. His band, he had Chad from the Red Hot Chili Peppers on drums. He had Josh, the former guitar player of Red Hot Chili Peppers, on guitar. He had the bass player from Jane's Addiction. And the guy that produces Post Malone and New Ozzy records, plays guitars on those albums. He played guitar too. And they just covered everything. Beatles, George Harrison, they did Temple of Dog, Neil Young, The Cure,
cool.
Prince. It was just fucking one of the best concerts I've ever been to.
What song did they do?
Purple Rain.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Very cool.
All right, shout out to Eddie Vedder, because Eddie Vedder, Pearl Jam. I remember in 2004, I went to go see Pearl Jam, and they were doing the Rock the Vote tour. MTV was helping them, and they went out and did the Rock the Vote tour, and I went to go see it. I think it was in Boston, I believe. And I got pretty decent seats because at the time I was helping with John Kerry's campaign.
Oh, okay.
And I'm standing on the floor, and I look over right next to me, and there's Tim Robbins standing right next to me.
Was Susan Sarandon there too?
No, it was just Tim.
Oh.
And I looked over at Tim, and I didn't want to make a big deal because I didn't want anybody else to recognize him. I'm like, hey, man, what's up? And he said, hey, what's going on? I'm like, Shawshank Redemption rules.
Right.
And, so that was my brief encounter with Tim Robbins at a Pearl Jam show.
Cool.
So on that note, we'll wrap this up, and we will talk to you again in a few days. And we will see you soon when we take over the Daily Show in about a year.
Yeah.
We're going to have to hire
in our dreams.
We're going to have to hire some better writers, though, and get a whole lot funnier.
Right, yeah. We better start practicing now.
Yeah. Work on our wardrobes.
Right.
And shit. All right. We'll talk to you later.
Bye, y'all. Bye.